What's up guys, Saf here on SuperSaf TV, and the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 4 is in the house. And in this video, I'm going to be telling you why I am now going to be switching to this from my Samsung Galaxy S22 Ultra. I've also got the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 3, so we can do some comparisons and see what has been improved, which has tempted me to switch. And if you're interested in the other foldable, the Flip 4, then I've covered that in a separate video that's going to be linked down in the description. Now let's just quickly get the unboxing experience out of the way because it is very quick. Of course, as last year, we do no longer get a charger included out of the box. This is something that you're gonna have to get separately. But as well as the Fold 4, you do get a USB Type-C to USB Type-C cable, a quick start guide, as well as a SIM card tool. Let's now get to the Fold 4. That's always a little bit more satisfying when it's a foldable. Right, and here it is. Now, at first glance, it might actually look quite similar to the Fold 3, and to be honest, it kind of is. This is the grey-green color, which is really nice. It's the flagship color. There's also a phantom black as well as a beige. And I just saw on the Samsung.com website that there is a burgundy, which is a limited edition, I'm assuming. If you do want to get that, or if you want to get one of the other colors, you can get up to $200 of Samsung credit using my exclusive link down in the description. So do check that out if you're thinking of getting this. Bringing in the Fold 3, you can see that there are lots of similarities in the design, but we do have some key improvements. So firstly, the Fold 4 is now slightly shorter compared to the Fold 3. It's slightly thinner than the Fold 3, and although it maintains the same width, it does have a wider cover display, around 2.7 millimeters wider. And the reason for that is because we've got much smaller bezels on the front display compared to what we had on the Fold 3. Now this gives you a noticeably wider cover display. And if you did watch my Fold 3 review, one of my biggest complaints was that this display was just a bit too narrow. It is now quite a bit wider, I would say, and a lot more usable. I still would have liked it to be slightly more wider, but it's great to see that Samsung have taken that feedback on board and given us a wider cover display without compromising on the width of the device, which was pretty compact. The Fold 4 also weighs less compared to the Fold 3, which is a good improvement, and it still maintains that IPX8 water resistant rating. Now for me, I know I keep saying this, but it is still mind-blowing that we've got a foldable device that has water resistance. Now the X in the X8 means that this is not completely dust resistant, but nevertheless, having a foldable with water resistance, and the only foldables, the Fold and Flip series from Samsung, are the only foldables out there that have a water resistant rating. Few other changes as well. Although we do have armor aluminium for the frame, we now have this sort of glossy frame on the Fold 4 compared to the matte finish on the Fold 3. I do prefer the matte finish personally, but hey. And we have Gorilla Glass Victus Plus compared to Gorilla Glass Victus, so this is a little bit more durable for the back as well as the cover display. Right, now let's talk about these displays. Of course, Samsung is one of the best when it comes to displays, and the Fold 4 is no exception. This is a 120 Hertz cover display. It's great to have 120 Hertz on the cover display as well as 120 Hertz on the main folding display. Now this display is absolutely beautiful. We now have slightly smaller bezels, so it is now around 3 millimeters wider overall. Dynamic AMOLED 2X technology, and it has around a 1000 nits peak brightness, which is nice for somebody like me who wears sunglasses. Now once again, we have an uninterrupted folding display, so we do not have a punch out. There is an under display camera. This is not as visible as the Fold 3, so I do notice it less compared to the Fold 3. However, the quality is still not great. This is just a 4 megapixel camera. And yes, I know this camera will mainly be used for conference calls, not selfies and things, but I would have liked to have seen it improve slightly at least. And for those of you wondering, yes, there is still a crease. I'm going to emphasize this once again. This crease is not that much of a big deal, especially because when you're typing, your thumbs don't really feel it, so you don't necessarily kind of put your fingers across it too much. However, the Fold 4, as the Fold 3 did, does support the S Pen. So there is the Fold Edition S Pen or the S Pen Pro. Now I've said this before, but it is super impressive that Samsung engineers have managed to get digitizers and things on a folding display so you can use the S Pen and also have an S Pen that can retract so it's not going to damage this folding display. Now personally speaking, I love having the option of an S Pen when it comes to doodling, signing documents and things. The drawbacks, however, are still here from what we had on the Fold 3. So because of the crease, although when you're drawing normally it's fine, when you do go across it, you do kind of feel it a little bit. The best way I can describe this is, say you have a book and you open it up, not that much of a thick book, but a book, and you try to draw across the dip in the middle of 2 pages. It is not going to be the perfect experience. But then again, the S Pen is optional. You don't have to get it. And the other thing with the S Pen is that you can't enclose it within the device like you can do on, say, the S22 Ultra. This is something that you're gonna have to get separately. And if you do want to carry it around with you, you're gonna have to get a case, which is gonna make the Fold 4 even more bulky than it already is. It's already quite a thick device. So just a few things to keep in mind. Once again, this is a bonus feature. You don't have to get it if you don't want to. Right, now let's talk about the cameras. Hey, SuperSaf here again. You know what I'm gonna do, guys. If you're not already, be sure to subscribe and hit that bell icon. Lots more fold and flip coverage coming up right here. Don't want to miss it. That's it. You heard the man. If you haven't already, maybe consider subscribing, especially considering that I'm going to be covering my full experience after switching to this in a review that's going to be coming in a few weeks, so you don't want to miss that. Right, so back to the cameras. The 4-megapixel camera, as mentioned, isn't great. However, this is kind of made up for because of the fact that we do have a proper selfie camera here on this punch out. This is 10 megapixels, takes good selfies, but as with the Fold 3, you can use dual preview on the Fold 4. This is basically going to allow you to use the cover display as a preview screen and let you use the rear-facing cameras as selfie cameras. So you're going to be able to get really nice selfies, including ultra-wide selfies. And let's talk a little bit about these cameras because they have been improved quite a bit. Now, the cameras on the Fold 3 were largely the same as the Fold 2, but the Fold 4 has some big improvements. These are the same cameras that we've got on the Samsung Galaxy S22 and S22 Plus, which are very, very good cameras. Now, these are not going to be as good as the flagship S22 Ultra, which also has a larger sensor size and a periscope zoom camera. I guess having a periscope zoom camera would make this thicker, so I understand why it's not here. But back to these cameras. So we've got a 12 megapixel ultra wide camera. We have a 50 megapixel primary camera with a larger sensor size, which is going to give you 23% brighter images. And we now have a 3 times optical zoom camera compared to the 2 times that we had on the Fold 3. This can also go up to 30 times for digital zoom. And having used the S22 and the S22 Plus, I'm confident that these cameras are going to be really good, maybe even better because of the new ISP, which is with the new chipset. Oh, by the way, an ISP is an image signal processor. Sorry, I always missed that. Anyway, so the Fold 4 is powered by the Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1 chipset. This is the latest flagship chipset. It also means that this is going to be superior in terms of performance to the flagship S22 series. And we have 12 gigabytes of RAM for multitasking. And in my opinion, the Fold 4 is the best multitasking smartphone that you can get, especially thanks to the software improvements. So the Fold 3 was already a great smartphone for multitasking, but Samsung have now taken this a step further with the taskbar. Now, I don't know why anybody didn't think of this soon because it's such a great idea. When you're in different apps, you've got shortcuts to other apps here and you can just very quickly switch to them just by tapping. So this is a similar experience like you have on a desktop PC, and it really utilizes this larger display. And whenever you do want to have 2 apps open at the same time, you can just tap and hold an icon and then just drop it on to the side. You can take this even further by dropping another window in here, and you can have 3 windows open at the same time. And if you really want, you can have a floating window on top of those 3 windows, and everything is super, super smooth. Samsung has also closely worked with the likes of Microsoft to optimize apps for the Fold. And I absolutely love this experience. This is one of the reasons why I'm going to be switching. Now, the Fold 3 could technically also have a taskbar. Is Samsung going to bring it to the Fold 3? I doubt it. I think having these features will make the Fold 4 stand out and more of an option to upgrade. So I don't think they're going to be bringing it to the Fold 3 anytime soon anyway. Right, another thing that you get with the 8 Plus Gen 1 chipset is power efficiency. It's 30% more power efficient compared to the regular 8 Gen 1. And if you remember my Fold 3 review, the Fold 3 had good battery life, but not great. I mean, it'd get me through the day, but it wouldn't be at the level of some of the other flagships. Now with the 8 Plus Gen 1, I am optimistic about battery life. We have the same size battery as the Fold 3, but because of the optimizations on the new chip, I'm expecting it to have better battery life, which I'll be covering in my full review. You do have up to 25-watt charging, so you can go from 0 to 50% in 30 minutes. That 25-watt charger is not included. However, wireless charging has been improved. It was 10 watts on the Fold 3. It is now up to 15 watts on the Fold 4. You still have wireless power share, so you can charge other items on the back of the Fold 4. Right, finally, let's talk about storage and pricing and why I think that this is worth going for. So this starts at 256 gigabytes, can go 512 and all the way up to 1 terabyte for those of you storage junkies. And for pricing, this does start around £50 more compared to what the Fold 3 started at. So it's going to start at £1,650 in the UK or around $1,800 in the US, which is the same price as last year. However, Samsung are giving some crazy pre-order deals. So right now you can get the 512 gigabyte version for the price of the 256 gigabyte version. And using my affiliate special link in the description below, you can get an additional instant $200 of Samsung credits. But on top of that, Samsung are giving you crazy prices to trade in your old smartphones, even if you have a cracked screen. And in the UK, even if you have any non-working smartphone, they're still gonna give you £250 off, which makes this, in my opinion, a great deal. So to conclude, who is the Fold 4 for? Fold 4. Anyway, in my opinion, if you are after the best large folding smartphone, then this is still the best option, especially with some of those pre-order deals. Having said that, this is still not perfect. I would have liked to have seen further improvements. I would have liked to have seen a slightly wider cover display, which would have given more space to maybe have an enclosed S Pen. If you're on a Fold 3, are there enough improvements here to bring you onto the Fold 4? Personally, I think not. I think still stick to the Fold 3 for a little bit longer. If you're on the Fold 2, however, I think this is a great upgrade. If you're after something smaller, a bit more compact, but still want that folding experience, then we have the Flip 4, which is a lot more affordable. And if you're somebody like me who's been using the S22 Ultra as one of their daily drivers, then I think this may just make me switch permanently. However, as mentioned, I am going to be switching to the Fold 4. I'm going to be putting my SIM card in this and using it on a daily basis. And I'll cover my full experience in my review that's going to be coming in a few weeks. If you want to see that first, be sure to subscribe and hit that bell icon. What do you guys think of the Fold 4? Are you going to be picking it up? Drop me a comment below. Let me know your thoughts. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful. As always, if you did, do smash that like button. It really helps out with the YouTube algorithm. And if you want to see some previous related videos, those will be linked here in the cards. Thanks for watching. This is Saf on SuperSaf TV, and I'll see you next time.